an orchestra plays on screen. But the real orchestration was behind the camera. In August and September 1944, Nazi authorities filmed Theresienstadt as a so-called Jewish settlement area. The footage showed a beautified ghetto, shaped by a campaign carried out before a Red Cross visit in June that year. The purpose was simple: show order, show life, hide the crime. On June 23, 1944, ICRC delegate Maurice Roussel visited Theresienstadt. The Nazis needed more than a lie. They needed a witness. The Red Cross did not create the performance, but its presence helped the performance travel. A controlled visit became evidence for the wrong side. To understand that pattern of witness, we need to look at what the Second World War had already revealed. (1945). By then, more than 5 million Soviet prisoners of war had passed into Nazi captivity. More than 3 million never returned. They were swallowed by hunger, forced labor, disease, executions, and neglect. When the guns stopped, Europe counted its ruins. Trials began, but one question remained. Where was protection when protection was needed most? The world already had an institution created for war. The International Committee of the Red Cross was founded in Geneva in 1863, inspired by Henri Dunant after the Battle of Solferino. It promised one idea: even war must have limits. The wounded must be treated. The captured must not be abandoned. But history would ask a harder question: what happens when neutrality becomes silence? The Second World War did not only test armies, it tested the promises made in the name of civilization. For Soviet prisoners of war, even law became a battlefield. The 1929 Geneva Convention on Prisoners of War existed, but the Soviet Union had not ratified it. Nazi Germany used that gap as one argument to deny Soviet prisoners the protection normally given to captured soldiers. The ICRC would later describe its failure during the Holocaust as one of the gravest in its history. It had knowledge and access, but its voice did not become the alarm the moment demanded. After the Soviet Union collapsed, new humanitarian needs emerged. In the South Caucasus, the First Garabagh War left prisoners, missing families, wounded civilians, and displaced communities. Nearly 4,000 Azerbaijanis were taken prisoner, held hostage, or went missing during the First Garabagh War.
In an unequal battle, Ilgar was wounded and captured, along with 10 others from our district, 11 men in total.
Then I felt someone kicking me, trying to wake me up. He was
But we knew something had happened to our father, or was being done to him. People who came said he was being severely tortured.
For their families, the war never became history.
We knew he was captured while wounded. Later, according to his comrades, he was left there without care. His wound was not treated.
No one checked on us. No one came or told us anything. No one from the Red Cross came, asked or showed any concern.
ICRC staff visited and officially registered 54 Azerbaijani citizens held in Armenia and occupied Azerbaijani territories.
People from the Red Cross used to visit us. After that, no one came.
He also wrote us a letter, asking us to see how we could help him.
Of those 54, 17 bodies were returned. 33 were reported dead in detention, but their bodies were not returned.
We were deeply affected because he had no grave, no resting place. He was the youngest child in the family.
The Red Cross brought us 2 letters from him. We saw no other help from them.
For 4 others, no further information was provided.
The Red Cross was there. They should have helped. I think if they had helped, my father would not have been beheaded.
No. We knew nothing. We did not know where he went, what happened, or where they took him.
For families, it is simpler. Who saw him? Who wrote his name? Who kept the file? And why did the answer take so long?
In Ashaga Saeed Ahmadli village in Fizuli district, we were surrounded. When we tried to break out, I was wounded and they could not evacuate me. I stayed there. On March 8th, Armenians found me.
Bir də gördüm ki, məni kimsə təpiylə vurur. Oyatmaq istəyir.
Then I felt someone kicking me, trying to wake me up. He was insulting me in Armenian, Russian, and Azerbaijani. I realized the Armenians had come. They had taken me prisoner.
They tortured me and took me to Fizuli. From Fizuli, they tortured me again and took me to Kankendi.
At that time, Mark was in charge. His assistant was Veronica, a Red Cross worker. Mark knew about all the torture we faced. He saw me himself. The marks on my face and eyes, the bruises, the scars on my head. He would smile. His translator was Armenian. He often came drunk. He was known for drinking. Many of our men died during his time.
Onun dövründə çox uşaqlarımız dünyasında işləyir.
16-17 olardı. Mark gelmişti. It was around the 16th or 17th. Mark came drunk with an Armenian girl as translator. I told him we were being tortured and asked what would happen if someone died. He only said he would send a death certificate to Azerbaijan, then left. What does that mean, sending a certificate to Azerbaijan on Azerbaijani land?
Under Mark, we suffered many losses among the prisoners. We saw many deaths. It is hard to even describe. Some of our men were killed in such terrible conditions that even today, they still appear in my dreams. I cannot forget them. They gave us almost no food, only water and half-boiled dry bread, which we soaked just to survive. That was the time of Mark.
Moscow's Vesti program came to film us. They were forcing us to speak against our own state, to say we had not wanted to go to war and had been brought there by force. Because I was from Baku and spoke Russian well, they told me to speak. I said nothing. Mark and Veronica were standing in the corridor. There was also an Armenian journalist there. After the filming ended, that Armenian journalist began torturing me, asking why I had not spoken. What could I say? I had come voluntarily. It was our land. He had a newspaper in his hand with a piece of metal hidden inside. He hit me and injured my forehead. I still have the scar. Mark and Veronica were there. They saw it. They did not bandage me. They did nothing.
They knocked me unconscious many times. When I woke up, I cursed myself for still being alive, knowing the same torture would start again.
For example, in Shusha prison, there was a man named Nadir. I do not know his surname. He had been tortured so much that he took his own life. They buried him near the prison. Mark knew about it. When he came, they told him Nadir had died after torture. He had no reaction.
After Mark left, a Red Cross worker named Pierre Reichel came in his place.
Pierre had everyone in the prison replaced, from the warden to the guards at the door.
There was almost no difference between the floor and the mattress. Everything was full of lice and fleas. He had blankets brought in and arranged disinfection work there. I am still in contact with Pierre today. I have his number and we speak. God bless him. He still checks on me. He is retired now. If it were not for him, I might not be here today.
In Azerbaijan, the question was whether humanitarian work stayed within its mandate. Baku viewed the ICRC's activity as exceeding its humanitarian role and disregarding state authorities. The material says the ICRC maintained an operational presence in Kankendi without proper consent from Baku, developed direct working arrangements with the former separatist structure, and did not share those texts with Azerbaijani authorities.
Operational and logistical agreements need to be agreed and in place, and the safety of our teams guaranteed for such an operation to take place. We are, however, not involved in the political negotiations.
On Azerbaijani territory, then under occupation, every office, route, and agreement carried political meaning. Who was consulted? Who was bypassed? Whose authority became normal in practice? That is where humanitarian access began to look like political normalization. The concern went further. According to material reviewed for this investigation, Baku viewed the ICRC's conduct as a refusal to fully recognize Azerbaijan's territorial integrity in practice, not necessarily through one public statement, but through routine. In a conflict over sovereignty, routine is never neutral. A humanitarian corridor is built on belief. The vehicle carries aid. The emblem protects the vulnerable. What passes through is what it claims to be. But in 2023, that belief was shaken. According to Azerbaijani authorities and material reviewed for this investigation, vehicles operating under ICRC arrangements were found carrying smuggled mobile phones, cigarettes, and petrol through the Lachin checkpoint. The organization blamed hired drivers and said their contracts had been terminated. One allegation is especially sensitive. As Azerbaijani forces advanced from the Kubadli direction towards Lachin during the 2020 war, material reviewed for this investigation says ICRC representatives repeatedly sought meetings with the Azerbaijani side. According to the same material, Azerbaijani officials viewed the purpose of those efforts as an attempt to understand whether the army would take control of the Lachin road. This is not a small claim. It goes to the core of humanitarian access in wartime. Material reviewed for this investigation alleges that ICRC activity in Azerbaijan crossed into politically sensitive and intelligence-sensitive areas, including access requests during the 2020 war that Azerbaijani strategists viewed as tactically useful for the Armenian side. Can humanitarian access remain purely humanitarian when every movement inside a war zone carries strategic value? Then the question moved north, Ukraine.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Bucha showed what occupation could mean when the doors finally opened. But around Ukraine, another question grew about humanitarian structures operating in the shadow of power. The language is familiar. Prisoners, detainees, bodies, missing people, families waiting. These are not only legal categories, they are the human files of war.
It is the unthinkable has happened here. We have seen the cruel face of Putin's army.
And they are the same categories that appear in Azerbaijan's questions about the Red Cross record in Garabagh. The Russian Red Cross is a national society inside the wider international Red Cross movement, but it carries the same moral brand.
I'm particularly happy to be here and to know that we have strong interlocutors and good relationships between Russia and the ICRC.
In 2024, the Russian Red Cross reportedly received 6.5 million euros from the ICRC and 7 million euros from the IFRC, roughly a quarter of its total annual budget. Reporting said this support grew after 2022.
Ukrainian officials have also voiced dissatisfaction.
І моє запитання, чи вже долучилися до допомоги інші міжнародні організації? Він сказав, нікого немає. Організації Об'єднаних Націй немає, представників Червоного Хреста немає.
I'm certainly committed with the ICRC to have as objective as possible and as fact and evidence-based as possible decisions. We know that this is always a challenge and the difficulties in conflict. I do respect also that after my visit in Kiev and here, there are always different interpretations of international law.
Sources also say Russian Red Cross head Pavel Savchuk was a member of the All Russia People's Front's General Staff, a Kremlin-aligned movement linked to pro-war campaigns and Putin's 2024 election effort. For an organization built on neutrality, that connection raises a basic question. Where does humanitarian work end and state politics begin? At the same time, the organization faced allegations of cooperation with Kremlin-linked patriotic structures, including youth movements involved in military-style activities. Reporting also examined Red Cross-branded structures in Russian-occupied Ukrainian territories, including Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia. The IFRC opened an oversight process. The oversight group found no grounds for sanctions, and Russian Red Cross head Pavlo Savchuk retained his seat on the IFRC governing board. That is the institutional question. If a movement investigates itself, who decides whether the answer is enough? The problem of trust is not limited to war zones. In China, the Red Cross Society of China faced a major credibility crisis after the Guo Mei scandal in 2011, when public anger over alleged misuse of charity funds damaged trust in the organization. The Chinese Red Cross denied affiliation with Guo, and she later admitted she had lied about holding a position there. But the damage was wider. Public confidence fell. Donations dropped sharply. The debate moved beyond one person to a larger question of transparency, accountability, and public trust. In 2014, after the Yunnan earthquake, the organization even appealed to the public to look past the scandal and donate to relief efforts. That appeal showed how fragile humanitarian trust had become. A similar question appeared in West Africa. The Red Cross later confirmed that more than $5 million in aid money was lost to fraud and corruption during the Ebola response. Auditors found overpriced supplies, salaries for non-existent aid workers, and fake customs bills. humanitarian work failed entirely. It is that even life-saving systems need scrutiny. Trust cannot replace oversight. To understand the power of the Red Cross, we must understand its structure. The ICRC is not a government. It is not the United Nations. It has no army, no police, and no border. Its power comes from trust. But the ICRC is also deeply Swiss in its governing architecture. The organization says its assembly is its supreme governing body. It defines policy, strategy, and general objectives, approves budgets, and appoints key management officials. It does raise a question. Can a global humanitarian institution, governed through one national elite structure, remain fully insulated from that country's political culture and interests? For an organization built on neutrality, structure is not a detail. It is part of the story.